Well, I've had some people that have wanted me to do a video of how to take the rear section off the X-maxx and the front section off the X-maxx. So we're going to do the rear section first. I've done it quite a few times. I've actually completely disassembled mine because it was making that all too well-known clicking noise that I'm sure everyone has heard. But I completely rebuilt the entire rear end driveline, and I've all but gotten rid of mine. So let's get to it. Of course, the first thing you're going to want to do is remove your body. Next, you're going to want to remove your batteries. It just makes it easier, really. If you want, you can remove your tires. Tires just going to add more weight, but that's up to whoever's doing this. Like if you're going to be removing some A-arms or things of that nature, that would probably be good for you. Me, seeing that I'm just showing how to do it, I really don't have to worry about that. First thing, there are two ways of doing this. You can leave the motor in. You'll have to, either way, take off the heat sink. But you'll have to unplug these wires, or you can take the motor out and let it hang. Either way, I take the motor and put it to the side. So, I'll show you my way. First, if you're running a Castle fan, pull up on this. I've seen people use a Castle fan and zip tie it. I have mine reversed because I have 3 fans pulling air in, so I have 2 fans actively pulling that air back out. So that's just my choice. I had a lot of people who have done it this way have actually noticed cooler temperatures because you're not constantly just blowing more air into a hot area. Remove some of that hot air. And I have two basically 60 millimeter, two 30 millimeter by 30 millimeter fans that are pumping in 10 CFM of air a minute. So let's get started on things. First thing is I'm going to remove my motor. There's certain parts that I use the T-wrench for. But for big projects like this, you're going to really want a power drill. It really makes things faster. I'm trying to get the camera at just the right angle. Okay, now the first thing we're going to do is we have to remove this. So that's 2 bolts. Because if you're gonna remove the motor, you have to remove the spur pinion cover. I dropped a screw, so I'm gonna get that. That's 2 screws. Put that off to the side. Everything on this is using the 2.5 millimeter. So now the 4 screws for the motor. And while I'm up under here, I'm going to go ahead and take these 4 screws towards the back off of the skid plate, because the skid plate actually helps hold on the rear also. I don't think these middle ones do, but they may. So I just removed them all. So that part's done. Now everything else we have to do is on top. So you're going to have to remove the 2 bolts from the the inner cage. And now there are just 4 bolts left. 8 bolts, excuse me. You have one here, one here, one here, and one here. For those, I've already stripped one because I used a power tool. For those, I like to start by loosening them with my Allen, my T-wrench. And then I will put the power tool to it. Basically, I put my power tool to it and I didn't have it set, the clutch set correctly, and I stripped out a screw. You want to get those screws out, and if you notice, the skid plate screws and the screws that hold on the chassis from the top are the same size. So you can put those next to each other because they are the same screws. Now let's get the back ones. Get them up and out of their holes. And then you have these 4. You got 1, 2, 3, 4. And they are quite a bit longer. These are the main ones that hold the chassis in place. You can see how long those are there. Some of them are a little tough to get out, but you got to pull these out completely because they're the main ones that are really holding the frame, the rear section in place. I mean, I'm guessing they probably take the most work because they are the longest. And then you grab your bumper. Oh, wait. We don't want to break some wires. Take your heatsink off. And I will show something with the heatsink. The stock tape that holds the temp probe in place is this plastic right here. I mean this tape. It's sort of a tingy yellow, but I removed that and put on some metal aluminum tape. This is used for duct work. You can get this at any local Lowe's, Home Depot, Walmart. It will conduct the heat better because the temp probe, there is a special little slot built into the on both sides for the heat probe to go into. So you can technically put this heat probe on this side, but the wire is coming down this side of the truck, so that's where I'm staying. Okay, so since I do that, I also pull out the motor. It's not hard with these bullet connectors. See, the blue one just came right out, so definitely gonna have to bend those out a little because not only is it the size of the connector, it's also how tight the connector is for the amount of current to go through. These are either 6.5mm or 8mm bullet connectors, so they let a lot of current to go through. So now all that is done. I believe all the screws have been removed. What did I miss? I got those. You two. Ah, yes. The screws for the motor can sort of get it hung up. So get those out. And out pops your rear section. Now you will notice that this little thing right here came out. This goes into the spline right down in there. You definitely have to have that in place for your drive shaft to connect in place. So that always pulls out every time. So just push it back in there, but that's it. There's your rear section. So now we're going to put it back together. Same thing, it just slides right back in. As soon as you hear that nice strong click, you know it's in. Gather up all your screws for your motor. And seeing that these long ones are right on top, gonna do those first. Just get them in their holes. And there we go. Set the clutch on the drill down to 2. Because you don't want to, since you're going carbon steel screws into plastic, you definitely don't want to strip out the plastic. So set your clutch, or if you don't have a clutch, get it a little bit snug and then hand tighten it. And that very arrogant noise is the clutch slipping so it doesn't over torque. But that clutch also sort of works like an impact wrench. And now I'm gonna do I basically do the top to the bottom. Get these up top in place. I always like to do, in things like this, I like to do the star pattern, because you want to make sure these things, especially a part for the chassis, you want to really make sure that it gets seated correctly. See, like right now, that one's not wanting to seat correctly, so I'm gonna sort of mess with it with the good old T-wrench that comes with it. See what's going on with that. There's nothing in the hole, so why the hell aren't you going in? Damn it. This little screw's being a pain in the ass. These videos don't always go perfect. Yeah, that's great. How about let's start back here. Maybe that'll work better. And that one's in. Maybe a different screw will work a little better. Damn. I've never had this much of a hard time getting a screw in place. There it goes. Drop down in place. Okay, that's in place. Remember, we have these other 4 and these other 2. We can go ahead and put these 2 to hold the cage in place in, but you want to set your clutch to looser setting. because you are going into a tubular piece of plastic that can expand, and then you will strip out the threads. It happened to me on the front bumper. I actually ran into something, a trash can, outside the big trash cans that your city gives you. Make sure that it's in the right spot. Make sure your gear mesh is good. You can pop your heatsink back down into place. Load if you have a magnetic tip, load a screw up in it. Now, something like this, I would go with 2, maybe 3 on the torque. Number 2. Ah, damn it. I put in the wrong screw. I put in a, yep, I put in a shorter screw. That was the screw for the, skid plate, and not for the motor. The motor has longer screws to really grab onto it. I will be getting the metal area RC motor mount, because it will work as a heat dissipator and not as much flex. Because this is a, I don't know exactly how much, but I'm guessing this motor puts out at least 5 horsepower. Has to be. So those 4 in, and then the 4 for the lower skid plate. I don't know what I was thinking there. I was trying to put another screw back in the motor when it was already fully complete. And lastly, so all that is done. So now you know how to, well, except for this right here, slide it back into place, get it seated. It will actually sort of click once it's seated in it where it's supposed to be. I think I may have stripped that out, but no big deal. Yep, pulled some threads. That sucks, but thankfully I have the other side. Damn it. I was in too much of a rush. Yeah, with that you definitely want to set it to 1. Like I said, that's in. No, I didn't strip that out. That's good. Okay. So now that's in, you're going to take your castle fan, pop it back in place, take the leads, your bullet connectors for your motor, connect them back together, because you definitely don't want to turn on your ESC, give it throttle, and see sparks jumping from one bullet connector to the other because you're going too quick like I was. So the next step is to take your batteries, put them in, because you always want to check stuff like this before you run it. Don't do something like this and then automatically go outside assuming that you did everything right. You may have forgot something and you could possibly break something. So turn receiver on. Oh yeah, it would help if I plugged in both batteries. Hear the spark. Turn it on. That little bit of a growling noise. That little bit of a growling noise is, this has a very coarse gearing setup on it. It's a mod 1. Basically, from what I read, it's 1 millimeter between, either 1 millimeter or 1 centimeter between each gear. So it's a very coarse gear setup. Mod 0.8 is 0.8 centimeters. I believe that's what I've read. I don't know how truthful that is. It's a very coarse gear setup. But that's it on how to get out your rear assembly. My next video will be how to get out the front assembly, and doing that will be how to get to your servo as well. So until the next video, peace.